Hey guys, welcome to this very first episode of the new series on my channel, which is called Cinema. It's a wordplay that I was trying for a very long time, and I thought, "Ki, this is the right time to actually use this." I've been joined by my fellow cinema lovers from around the world. Actually, we have Tanya, Sadiq, Saket, and Farad. And thank you guys for joining. This is really going to be fun. I can already feel the energy in the house because we are going to talk about a couple of very interesting films. Consider this as my introduction to Malayalam cinema as well, क्योंकि इससे पहले मैंने कोई मलयालम फिल्म नहीं देखी थी, and I think it was maybe Sadiq is also one of the people who's responsible for pushing me to watch these films, and a few of my friends जो बहुत बड़े फहाद फासिल के फैन हैं, तो उन्होंने भी मुझे काफ़ी टाइम से बोला हुआ था कि यार उसकी सुपर डिलक्स हो गई या फिर कुमलंगी नाइट्स, तो दे ऑलवेज wanted me to watch, but I don't know, मेरे को हमेशा से even though I lived in Chennai for 6 years, but I always was a bit apprehensive कि यार subtitles होते हैं तो आप कैसे focus कर पाओगे और यार वो. But then the speech that Parasite director made at the Oscars, कि once you come across that 1 inch barrier of subtitles, then the world, there's a whole new world waiting for you. तो वही हुआ मेरे साथ भी. And once I watched The Great Indian Kitchen, once I watched Joji just recently, I didn't just stop there. Actually, मैंने पिछले 3 दिन में See You Soon भी देख ली, कुंभलंगी नाइट्स भी देख ली, और एक आधी और फिल्म देख ली. So thank you guys for joining me on this venture. And first of all, because you are new on my channel, I would first start with you guys just telling a bit about yourself, where you're from, and थोड़ा बहुत एक brief सा introduction अगर हो जाए तो. Farad, let's start with you.
Okay, so hi Keshav, lovely to have us on the channel, and my name is Farhad, and मैं वैसे तो IT engineer हूँ, लेकिन I am a film critic, a film buff. और मेरी एक वेबसाइट है popcornreviews.com, जहाँ पे मैं रिव्यूज करता हूँ, एंड जहाँ पे देयर आर होस्ट ऑफ अदर राइटर्स हु राइट आल्सो. एंड मेरे लिए सिनेमा ऐसा है कि इट देयर इज नो रिस्ट्रिक्शन ऑन द लैंग्वेज और जॉनर. मतलब आई लाइक ऑल सॉर्ट्स ऑफ सिनेमा, ऑल सॉर्ट्स ऑफ लैंग्वेज का. तो and I have been watching many regional movies and movies with subtitles. I think it's been around 4-5 years now, so काफी सारा माल बटोर लिया है. And happy to contribute here too. I mean, share my 2 cents on a few movies that we'll be discussing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Farhad. And now we move to Tanya. Tanya already runs her own channel, and she has been doing this for a long time. So all these people are actually much more experienced than me in discussing and talking about cinema in general. So that's why I wanted these guys to be on the platform so that I get to learn as well. So Tanya, over to you.
So, hi guys, I'm Tanya, and thank you, Keshav, for having us. I'm an actor, I cast for ads, and I have my own YouTube channel where I recommend world movies which are pretty underrated. And Farhad, Saket, Sadiq, and Nidhi are my four cinephile companions who generally come and we discuss about a lot of movies, like negatives and positives. So I think all of us are pretty excited to do it for your channel as well, and I'm looking forward to you coming to my channel also.
Sure. That would be great as well. Okay, Sadiq has joined us all the way from Karachi, Pakistan, and it might come a bit odd to the viewers जो मेरे चैनल पे शायद पहली बार ये सब देख रहे हैं कि यार हम खुद इंडिया में होके मलयालम फिल्में नहीं देखते, और ये पाकिस्तान में बैठा हुआ बंदा मलयालम फिल्मों का फैन है और इतनी नॉलेज है. तो सादिक, वेलकम टू द शो. व्हाट वुड यू लाइक टू से अबाउट दिस होल? Is it just you, or do you have more people around you in Pakistan who are actually fans of Malayalam or South Indian cinema in general?
So yes, we do have South Indian fans here in Karachi, I mean Pakistan side, but yeah, it is limited. Problem is that most of our fans most of our viewers in Pakistan that watch South Indian films, they are mostly Hindi dubbed.
Okay.
So
I think we have lost Sadik. The moment he said Hindi dub,
So,
we've lost Sadik. तो इससे पता लगता है कि आप हमेशा सबटाइटल के साथ देखो to enjoy it to the fullest. Sadik, we have lost your audio.
yeah, yeah, yeah. अब अच्छा, sorry, वो internet connection issue है.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, उसमें yeah, so उसमें they have a perception, preconceived notion that Tamil films or मतलब उसमें भी they mostly call all South Indian films as Tamil films or Madrasi films. Most of them don't even know there is Kannada language also, Malayalam also, Telugu also. So at times I have to correct them. ऐसा नहीं होता. There is for example दृश्यम जब रिलीज हुई थी तो one of my friends अच्छा उसको ऐसा लगा था अजय देवगन की दृश्यम ओरिजिनल. तो आई वाज लाइक नहीं भाई वो आपने आपने चाइना का आपने वो क्या बोलते हैं चाइना का आईफोन ले लिया था सस्ता वाला. ओरिजिनल दृश्यम तो है वो तो मलयालम मोहनलाल वाली. तो यू हैव टू वॉच दैट. तो बोला सबटाइटल्स में कैसे देखेंगे. ऐसे आयरॉनिकली चाइना ही बनाता है आईफोन. लेकिन ये है कि मतलब मैंने उनको फिर ये समझाने की कोशिश की. मैंने बोला भाई कि इफ यू वांट टू वॉच द फिल्म ना तो आप ओरिजिनल देखें और सबटाइटल्स में कोशिश करके देखेंगे. देन यू विल एंजॉय दैट क्रक्स और इमोशनल चीजें हैं. तो या ये अभी भी प्रॉब्लम है यहाँ पे. मोस्ट पीपल डोंट इवन डिफरेंशिएट बिटवीन द लैंग्वेज.
Saket, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining, and please tell us and enlighten us a bit about yourself as well.
Yeah, glad to be here as always among all the cinephiles, and just like everyone here, I also don't have any restrictions with the language and stuff. I also watch a lot of old classics from the 50s and 60s and sometimes 40s as well. Recently started writing for Farad's website, so yeah, trying to get my hand at a writing little bit of reviews and stuff. So yeah.
And where are you based?
So I'm living in Germany currently, but I'm basically from Andhra Pradesh. So
Okay.
South
Yeah.
Indian makes sense.
Yeah, it's actually good. We needed a South Indian presence in the house as well. So there you have it, guys. मतलब India, Pakistan, Germany, हर जगह से from around the world we have gathered a bunch of cinema lovers here. So today, right now, first film that I would want to talk about is a film that really has been the talk of the town थोड़े time से मतलब जब से especially Amazon Prime पे release हुई. So I'm talking about The Great Indian Kitchen. It started on a different platform called Stream, and then once it got थोड़ा सा उसके the mouth of the word of mouth was good, that Amazon actually picked it up later on, and once it came there, so the reach was even more. So once people started talking about it, the reviews were really good. So let's start with the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of The Great Indian Kitchen. I mean, we all have seen the film, but what's that one thing that really strikes you quickly, Farhad, when you think about The Great Indian Kitchen? ऐसी वो क्या एक चीज है जो फिल्म देखने के बाद that has stayed with you?
Definitely वो the patriarchy part जो है, patriarchy माने the males doing certain things and the females only restricted to doing certain chores in the house. That is patriarchy. So मेरे लिए वो था, and that was like an eye opener. Like I feel कि हम सब में, and we have 4 male panelists on this
Yeah.
on this stream. So हाँ, so वो भी एक तरीके का patriarchy ही हुआ है. हम कितना भी मतलब हाँ मतलब हम कितना भी हम अपने आप में झांक के देखें ना, तो आई फील कि पेट्रियार्की हमें कूट कूट के भरी है. I mean, there's no escaping that, and it's not a proud thing. Definitely not a proud thing, and definitely that needs to change in the society. But I mean, yeah, वही था, and it was like a reflection also, ना मतलब any male who would be watching that and seeing कि नहीं यार ये गलत है, मतलब कि कुछ तो है उसमें भी patriarchy, and he is now realizing कि ये गलत है.
Yeah.
कोई ऐसा नहीं होगा जो ऐसे बोलेगा कि नहीं यार मतलब ऐसे ही होता आया है, या there's nothing wrong in that. I mean, there'll be some portion which you will say कि this is unfair. It will not say wrong, it will say unfair. That is the word. So मेरे लिए वही था जो stood out. First things first. I mean, मैंने नी स्ट्रीम जब आई थी तभी देख ली थी ये मूवी. I had watched it on नी स्ट्रीम. So
See, that's
it's
the
been a
proper
while.
cinema buff. मतलब they don't wait कि इस platform पे आ जाए हम तब देख लेंगे. So hats off to you, फरहाद. मुझे तो नी-स्ट्रीम platform का भी नाम नहीं पता था ये फिल्म आने से पहले. And interestingly, I should tell everyone जो शायद इस फिल्म के बारे में ज़्यादा जिनको पता नहीं है. So this film is directed and written by Jeo Baby, and it stars Nimisha, Sajayan, and Suraj, Venjaramoodu, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And the music is done by Suraj Kurup, who was a senior in my college in Chennai. I've known him personally, although we are not in touch. Abhi itna as such, he's become a really, really good name in the Malayalam industry, and I really love his music. So kudos to that. Tanya, if I ask you the same question, what was that one thing that stayed with you? I know you have a lot to talk about this film because you were so excited once you watched it. तो ऐसी वो क्या चीज थी that really sucked you into that whole world created by Geo Baby?
I think what I liked about the film was the subtle writing and subtly how he was telling us things that happens in almost every household. And just to let you know, this is not only that happens in Indian families, because I watched it with a friend who's not Indian, and he told me that this literally happens everywhere around the world. So it was very relatable. And the first thing that I did after I watched the film was I messaged my grandparents and people from my house saying that please watch it, because I think it's time for women to stand up and not do something that our grandparents or great grandparents have been doing, and we are just following it blindly, thinking that this is how society works. So I realized one thing after the movie is that if we women don't stand up for ourselves, then men are not going to change.
Yeah.
Until the time we don't raise our voice, we're just going to think this is how a house works, and it's not supposed to be working like this. So
Yeah,
the thing
that's
that
a great point, yeah.
loved about the movie was that there was in the face, and I loved the kitchen montages. Like if people have seen the movie, I think the first 30 minutes if someone is watching, or the first 20 minutes, you just feel like what is this bartan and khana. It's so annoying, but later when it picks up, you understand why he was doing that the first 20 minutes. Also, I want to mention that I was quite surprised. I didn't know that a male director has directed this movie because I just went into the movie without reading about it. And I was quite surprised that a man has directed this film. I really thought this is directed by a female director.
Yeah, and Sadik, जैसे हम लोग यहाँ पेट्रियार्की की बात कर रहे हैं, it's not just that it's something which is prevalent in just India or our society. I think it's there in Pakistan as well, as much as it's in India. So, were there any sort of similarities that you found in that film? क्योंकि ये मलयालम फिल्म है तो ऐसा नहीं है कि जो चीज़ यहाँ की है वही दिखाई गई है. A lot of people are relating to it, as Tanya and Farhad also said ki it's there everywhere. So as a Pakistani, how did you relate to that film, or what were the things that the takeaways for you from this film?
Yeah. So the problem is that a woman is tagged as just as a maid to work in that household. So it was evident in the Gradient Kitchen also that when that woman realized her rights, that she's been manipulated, she's been exploited and stuff. So when she was about to rebel, so the parents, the husband as well as his father, the husband's father, also got annoyed at times. So he was using the patriarchy play card, and he was again manipulating her. But that woman was determined that I won't get exploited anymore. So she went to the maximum length, and these things happen in Pakistan as well as India. In fact, in all of Asia, that's what I've observed. Because I've seen in a few many films, and also I've read about a few articles that women are just treated, unfortunately, as second-class citizens. I mean, not as equal to men. And I think there should be a concept of equity, not equality. I mean, men and women are different. I do agree on that. So they do have different functions, but we have to respect both of their different functions and their personal traits. That's what I
Absolutely. Yeah. And
personally feel.
what I pointed out, that in the whole film, nobody was actually named. You don't have any names for the characters. That is another takeaway from the film. Saket, if you noticed, कि इस film के अंदर the way they have shown it, actually you don't realize कि किसी का नाम ही नहीं लिया. वो तो later on, when I was doing a bit of research on the film and seeing some interviews with the director, that's when I came to notice it. It was that well made, and it was so subtle in that way. So, Saket, just to follow up on the same question, you also watched it recently. So, what is that one thing that has still, that still haunts you, or that has, kept you awake at night, if you will? I mean, because it is a film that makes you think a lot.
So yeah, I think more than the film, I think the intent itself, like the director, I think he's also the writer for the movie. I'm sorry, I did not check
Yeah,
this.
he
But
is. Yeah.
okay, so the fact that someone came up and tried to portray something like this, and it's not like blatant misogyny where there is violence or something. It's just something so subtle in every household where we think that it's probably not misogyny, but it is. So I think that intent is really well captured, and yeah, we'll probably get into the review later. But if I had to say one thing that really like shocked me the first time I watched this, I was like really surprised by it. It's just the pure intent of like conveying a certain thing that a lot of people won't be bold enough to convey this.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as Sadik said, so that one point which is very relevant here is it's like how a lot of people are seen, especially the women, how they are seen, once they're married, they're only seen as somebody who would cook for you and who would, give birth to your children. So it's kind of like a maid who gives you consent for sex. It was portrayed in such a way. And just coming into the film now, Farad, how beautifully they show the transition from, क्योंकि जब वो उसकी शादी के बाद घर आती है, then शुरू में she's readily doing all these things when the mother-in-law is there, and you can see the subtle change in expression from day by day. कि शुरू में कितने मन से वो सारी चीजें कर रही है for her husband and father-in-law. But once it becomes a pattern, वो जो एक robotic जिंदगी उसकी बन जाती है, you can see the difference in the expression as well. How it's going from happy to normal to actually being frustrated all the way down. So, were you impressed by this, or did you think कि वो जो 45 minutes शुरू में उन्होंने लिए to set up the whole world and to take us through the journey they took, वो थोड़ी और edit down हो सकती थी, या you were okay with it once you came to the conclusion why it was done like that?
So what I feel, केशव, अगर आप पहले तो मैं एक स्टेप पीछे लेता हूँ. अगर आप ओपनिंग सीक्वेंस देखेंगे तो उसमें there is the dance sequence that is there.
Yeah.
So that is what her life was. Very quickly they showed that how happy she was in her life till she got married in the very next scene.
Yeah.
जब से then वहां से हुआ, then her journey started, and then ये जो हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं वो आई है. I feel कि this movie जो है, we as audience, we were like one of the family members in the family which was portrayed. Like on the table, if you see, और the camera angle ऐसे था ना कि मतलब आप घर के कोने में एक बैठे हो आप, and you are observing things कि क्या
Yeah.
चल रहा है क्या नहीं चल रहा है. So and ये 45 minutes I think was the foundation. अगर ये आप सही से नहीं दिखाते तो मैसेज क्लियर नहीं जाता. So I feel कि 45 minutes ये एकदम perfect था. I don't think you needed to trim it down or edit it down in any way. I'm sorry. But I feel ये एकदम मतलब it was a classic case of show not tell. मतलब ये dialogues नहीं थे आप देखेंगे
Yeah.
तो. It was like they were actually showing कि ये है, ऐसा ऐसा है. Dialogue जरा भी नहीं था. And plus
Yeah.
you also show outside the kitchen also during the night when they were actually making love, having sex. तो उसका भी ये था कि one angle ये भी था कि there was pain that she was going through, in the sense कि there was no concept of foreplay.
Yeah.
And there was the concept of vaginal soreness वगैरह.
Yeah.
If I'm allowed to use these words, it's pretty
Yeah,
okay
yeah,
with me.
it's pretty okay. And actually it's important also to note down these things, because I don't think कि अगर हिंदी में ये रीमेक बने या हिंदी में ही बनती ओरिजिनली तो इन चीजों के बारे में इतना सर्टनली वो लोग वो मैसेज दे पाते. That's something what we can learn from especially Malayalam films. And मेरे लिए it was also a good start, क्योंकि as you said ना, इस फिल्म में इतने डायलॉग नहीं थे. So for somebody who's new to Malayalam cinema and this language, for him to be watching the first film जिसमें इतने आपको dialogues पे focus या subtitle पे focus नहीं करना, and you can just be in that world and just grasp in what's happening on the screen. So that was a good way for me to start watching Malayalam films. Tanya, just if you wanted to add something to it, like how the first 45 minutes, as you also said, it was very important for the film to set it up. So did you feel that sort of frustration? जैसे धीरे धीरे एक एक दिन वो शुरू में तो फास्ट कट्स हैं, once they get married and they meet and it's quickly done, but that whole the chores which take place over so many days. So did that also build kind of a frustration inside you while watching कि यार, I mean, I felt that myself कि ये लोग कैसे कर लेते हैं यार रोज रोज का एक ही टाइप का काम, it's kind of like a robotic life.
Yeah. So for me, I think the first 45 minutes, as Farhad said, was important because you realize what she's going through every day. Because start के 10 दिन सबको इसे ठीक लगता है, but बाद में when it becomes a habit and you know it's a routine, you start realizing that I cannot live with this forever. And if my mother-in-law is doing this and she's keeping up with it, doesn't mean that I am or like my daughter in future is going to do it too. So I think it was important. Plus, for me, I think in the start, when they get married, the night they get married, she asks him, he asks her, do you mind switching off the light? And she just gives him a very creepy smile. I think that was like the first moment where she came to know that, okay, maybe it's not love and it was just a love marriage situation. That was the first moment where I think it showed that there was no attraction between them and it just happened. So that was also a very important scene for me. So it is, I think in the first 45 minutes, what he showed very subtly and not in the face was very important, so that after that, the next 45 minutes was so fast and it picked up so fast that we could literally relate to it and not feel lost in the film.
Yeah, and just talking about this, सादिक, जैसे हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं कि कैसे उसका one of the very important dialogues in the film, मुझे जो लगा कि the husband says कि for having foreplay I should have feelings for you as well. That actually almost killed it for her, isn't it? मतलब that probably was the boiling point for her, क्योंकि जैसे जैसे वो एक frustration दिन ब दिन बढ़ती जा रही थी, तो वो जो that volcano that erupted finally. So that particular dialogue which pinched her, that has something to do with the whole climax, probably.
It actually showed that that they had that view that woman is just used for for their personal pleasure. That's it. I mean, they don't consider her as a human being, unfortunately, specifically in South Asia. So and it was evident there, and it gets problematic when the woman is just seen as a housewife and not as a homemaker. Because the term housewife itself is very problematic. I mean, how can you say to an individual that she is a housewife? I mean, if she gets married, so is her contribution only limited to do household chores, look after the children, and look after the husband's family? I mean, doesn't she have any identity of her own and stuff? So yeah, it was evident in that too, and it was problematic. I'm not really a feminist or not specifically a direct supporter of women rights, but yeah, I do feel that that there should be some empathy and some compassion from our side also. I mean, not only women but men also have to understand this. If they get dominated or if they get suppressed, so they should have some empathy and compassion in that, and it was evident in that film, which was good to see, I guess.
And Saket, just to cover it up with you now, were you surprised how the father-in-law was actually behaving? मतलब मेरे लिए तो it felt like maybe they have taken a bit of creative liberty, because honestly, I have not seen a man like that in my life. So either I am lucky to have not seen somebody like that, और maybe they exist. So were you surprised? मतलब वो अपना ब्रश भी खुद नहीं करता है, उसको ब्रश के ऊपर टूथपेस्ट भी लगा के दो और उसका चप्पल भी बाहर रखो उसके जाने के लिए. Have you seen such characters in your real life, or were you also surprised with this level of patriarchy?
No, I was also actually surprised. That would probably be one of my critiques as well of the movie.
Okay.
Because I think it's trying to generalize by not giving names to the characters. It's trying to generalize. Okay, men are this and women are this. And when you try to generalize, you cannot exaggerate some situations. Like the dinner table scene is one notable example where they're just throwing stuff. And I don't know, maybe I'm not from Kerala specifically. So if someone's from Kerala can let us know if that's like true, that's the true situation. But it's a bit when you're trying to do a social commentary or satire, you should extract it out of reality and not like exaggerated situations. Also, I mean, maybe the in-law, the father-in-law still makes sense because he's older and he's probably of a different era. So maybe his ideas are different, but trying to even like show every man in the movie against, even we see I think three or four friends of this husband character. They come once in a while and one of the person comes and asks for tea. So every man is kind of portrayed similarly, and that's like something I was not really a big fan of.
And फरहाद, मेरे को जो सबसे ज्यादा फ्रस्ट्रेट कर रही थी पूरी फिल्म के अंदर जो चीज वो थी कि why the hell he was not actually getting a plumber to fix that thing, man. मतलब that was so goddamn frustrating. If he would have done that वो बात वहां तक पहुंचती ना. But that was actually that built up to the final scene where she pours over that sewage filth water instead of the tea. So just as Saket actually pointed out some sort of criticism, were you also having some sort of criticism in any aspect in this film?
नहीं, मेरे लिए कोई criticism नहीं था. I feel कि if the criticism that Saket is saying was कि there were male friends who actually were, so they were actually trying to portray कि they were trying to show कि patriarchy जो है वो सारी मर्दों में है. Unknowingly or knowingly they are actually doing that. Like you said कि जो husband का जो character था कि he was born and brought up in that way, but he was also a teacher जो family का he was teaching also. So I mean that should have countered it if you see, but it clearly didn't. You know,
that's ironic.
It's ironic.
I have a point. The counter in the movie is when the wife's character, the protagonist character, the protagonist's friend calls and says she's going to a dancing. She'll be at a dancing event and she has to attend that on a phone call. And the husband sits on the stairs. They both sit on the stairs, and the husband comes and says, "I'm cooking today or tomorrow" or something like that. So there is that contradiction of that male person being portrayed differently. So that's where like the text contradicts like what it was trying to generalize, that idea of all males somehow having patriarchy in them. Like that's where like it contradicts.
Yeah, I thought जो उसके friend का जो दिखाया था, that was more like to do कि what actually is happening in the modern world right now, and these people with such outdated thought process, they are still living in that era, so to speak. But you know, Farhad, as you also said, did you think, or rather, let me put this to Tanya because she's the only female in this chat as well, as Farhad pointed out, the so-called patriarchy in our chat session as well. But Tanya, if I ask you the same question, did you have any problems in the film, or you were okay with whatever you saw?
I honestly didn't have any problems with the film because I know that there is some kind of male ego or like a patriarchy thing in every male, knowingly or unknowingly. I am not a feminist myself. I'm not saying that I'm standing for women's rights, but we as people don't realize that there is an underlying situation where we feel that it's okay, but it's actually not okay. Just to give an example, if supposing there is a couple, okay, and the male is earning more than the female, okay, and even if she's earning like 20% to what the male is earning, once they come back home, the male is not going to help in the house, in the kitchen, or like just सफाई करने में 20% भी help नहीं करेगा वो, क्योंकि वो female का काम है. और यही हम लोग बड़े होते हुए, like while growing, we have learned this because we just feel that women are supposed to take care of the house, but we don't realize that it is also the male's responsibility to be equally responsible.
It was shown so well in the last scene, one of the last scenes as well, when her younger brother, when he comes and you know he asks for a glass of water, and she bursts out. Yeah, and you know with May,
this has happened in my own house.
Yeah, it happens everywhere. I mean, I think हम सब relate कर सकते हैं इससे. हम चारों ने खुद किया भी होगा वो as being the male in the house. And sometimes, you know, it's also taken so carelessly. Just like that husband's cousin, वो जब आता है और वो black tea के लिए बोलता है. So he says कि चलो आज का खाना हम बनाएंगे, let the ladies take rest. And once that all of the सब खाना वाना होने के बाद, once she has to go back to kitchen and he's actually joking कि अरे सब काम तो हमने कर लिया, अब इन्हें क्या करना है kitchen में. So that careless approach actually was so visible. Farhad, I think we all will have common answer who impressed the most in the acting, but just to talk a bit about the technical aspects also, how did you think about the cinematography of the film? I mean, it played a huge role in creating that whole atmosphere जिसमें आप खुद you become a part of that whole world and you yourself feel suffocated.
बिल्कुल. So कुछ टाइम पहले when I had said कि this was actually more like a show and not tell, उसका one of the biggest मतलब pillars for that is the cinematography, क्योंकि जो camera positions थे, they were in the corners of the home. So it made you a quiet, silent bystander in the movie, and you were in that scene basically, and you were observing everything, right from the filthy plates to that filthy table to that basin जो पूरा भरा हुआ था, to that frustration, to that bedroom scene, to even in the second half जब उसको बोला जाता है कि because I think she was on periods, so you cannot go to that temple या जो भी है वो, that also मतलब you were actually in a journey with that character because of the cinematography. The camera basically followed the protagonist. And so वो बहुत मतलब it was carefully designed. The scenes were carefully designed to make you feel uncomfortable. If you were uncomfortable, if you felt the things were repetitive, then the point is being the point is being made across. So I mean,
and Tanya, if I ask you about the climax of the film, I mean, would you say it was a positive or a happy ending because she escaped, or would you say कि no, it's the same thing going around again because he marries somebody else and then the same thing is happening with her? So how would you see the conclusion of the film here?
For me, I think the end of the film was very it was unexpected but perfect. I knew that she will stand up for herself because I could see her journey as an independent woman. So I really liked that she did stand up for herself and didn't just follow how her family is. But when I saw that he got married to another woman and is doing exactly the same, I was like, wow, this is exactly what happens. Like, they move on in a second, they don't realize what they have done, and then they just repeat their mistakes, and that's what the film was trying to show. So I think he marrying someone else and she's also being very sweet in the start that, okay, thank you, now I'll wash your cup, was the most perfect ending. And when the movie ended, I was like, now I hope this girl also stands up for herself and doesn't like fall in the pit.
But the end was actually so powerful. Matlab, before I watched the film, I had actually like when I started watching it, I didn't expect them to take this sort of a hard route because usually yes, they showed कि she kind of escaped at the end, but it's not everyone's luck. I mean, especially in real life, सब लोग की इतनी किस्मत नहीं होती कि वो बच के ऐसे निकल जाएं फिर अपनी जिंदगी अलग से शुरू कर ले.
See, it's not even about kismat. In the end, I think it's about you have to stand up for yourself. Kismat किसी की नहीं होती.
Even in India or Pakistan, I think even if women stand up for themselves, it's very difficult to get away from all these things, isn't it? मतलब film के अंदर
especially if you have kids, the situation gets worse. It's not as easy to leave home for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, agar you're not financially well off, if you don't have any of your own savings, or if your own parents are not actually supportive of the fact that you leave that household, then I know a couple of my own friends who are stuck in these kind of marriages, and even if they want to stand up against it, they cannot do anything about it. They're helpless in that sort. Sadik, just to get a perspective from you कि यहाँ पे जैसे एक periods के time पे जो इस तरीके का दिखाया गया untouchability and you can't enter the kitchen and you can't go to the temple and all. So is it the same in Pakistan in any which way? मतलब वहाँ पे भी ये पुरानी सोच है menstruation को लेके?
यस यस, मेंस्ट्रुएशन को लेके सोच तो ऐसी है, और साथ ही साथ मतलब मेंस्ट्रुएशन को है ना अभी भी मतलब एक अजीब सा कॉन्सेप्ट समझा जाता है, अभी भी एक तरह का एक टैबू है कि मतलब इट्स नॉट डिस्कस प्रॉपर्ली. लाइक फॉर इंस्टेंस वन ऑफ माय फ्रेंड, शी हैज एंडोमेट्रियोसिस. सो एंडोमेट्रियोसिस इज अ फीमेल डिसऑर्डर. बट यहाँ पे अनफॉर्चुनेटली आई डोंट थिंक इन पाकिस्तान हार्डली 1 या 2% लोगों को एंडोमेट्रियोसिस का पता होगा, या वुमेन को भी शायद ही इसका पता होगा. सो इट इज रिलेटेड टू दैट. तो इसी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में इफ आई टेक दिस एग्जांपल रिगार्डिंग दैट पीरियड्स एंड मेंस्ट्रुएशन, so they don't discuss about these things, or if that woman has it, तो वो मतलब कहते हैं कि उसकी तबीयत खराब है, ये है ब्ला ब्ला ब्ला, बट वो एक्चुअल बात पे कभी नहीं आएंगे. ये मुझे प्रॉब्लम आज तक समझ में नहीं आता, हिपोक्रेसी जो हमारे चलती रहती है, बात को घुमाते रहते हैं. तो मतलब इसी तरह फॉर इंस्टेंस मतलब थोड़ा वेवर्ड जा रहा है, बट आई हैव टू टॉक अबाउट दिस आल्सो. लव की और इंटीमेसी की और इन सब चीजों की हम बात नहीं करते हैं, स्पेसिफिकली इन इंडिया पाकिस्तान. तो मैं सोचता हूँ अगर लव और ये सारी चीजें मतलब एक टैबू है और इनको बात नहीं कर सकते, तो हाउ कम इंडिया पाकिस्तान की पॉपुलेशन इज 160 करोड़. मुझे समझ में नहीं आता, तो बच्चे क्या ऊपर से आते हैं दरख्तों पे उठते, मुझे तो आज तक समझ में नहीं आया कि भाई अगर ये लव कंपैशन और ये सब चीजें नहीं है तो मतलब एक अजीब सी हिपोक्रेसी है. वी डोंट डिस्कस अबाउट इट. सो उसमें रादर देन बीइंग कंपैशनेट एंड थिंकिंग अबाउट कि वो शी इज फेसिंग इश्यूज और उसको उसको मोटिवेट किया जाए, समझाया जाए, तो उसको तो एक अजीब सा किया जा रहा है कि भाई कि योर हेल्थ इज योर प्रॉब्लम, मतलब वो तेरी वजह से ही हो रहा है, तो यू शुड सॉर्ट ऑफ पनिश्ड.
हाँ,
और
वो हर चीज में दोष वुमेन को ही मिलता है कि बेशक अगर घर में लड़की भी पैदा हो रही है तो भी
हाँ,
तुम्हारा ही दोष है उसमें, ऑल्दो साइंटिफिकली इट्स एक्चुअली मेल्स chromosome which actually
हाँ.
yeah. Farad, you were raising your hand, so we'll finish
So
with you.
I was also saying one point that we missed out was a concept of marital rape. I mean,
Yeah.
ये भी एक subtle तरीके से touch किया गया है in the movie. If you ask any male who's married and they were like कि फिर शादी क्यों की? ऐसे पलट के ऐसे बोल ही देते कि शादी क्यों
Yeah.
की, मतलब you are considered sex slaves only. Like, I mean, not all male again, but like you will say quite a good number of people.
Yeah.
So I mean, that concept of marital rape also I think should be considered a crime. Rape in any form, marital or not marital, is a crime straight away. So I feel wo bhi, and there is the concept of sex education that needs to be conveyed to men from a very young age.
Yeah.
The concept of foreplay and how you can actually understand the various concepts of sex as well. It's not as straightforward, or it's not. It can be very painful also, I feel. So
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, ye,
and what she felt was kind of like that, isn't it? मतलब she complained also कि यार it's kind of difficult for me to directly go into that, so let's do the foreplay. So it conveys ना कि वो भी किसी हद तक आप उसको marital rape की कैटेगरी में डाल सकते हो.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
And जाते जाते I would like to conclude with this. So I follow Junaid Akram. Sadiq would definitely know him. So उसके एक शो में मैंने उसकी एक ये बात सुनी थी. तो he said a very relevant thing in this context. He says कि जिंदगी भर जब हम बचपन में होते हैं या फिर जब हम बड़े हो रहे होते हैं तो माँ बाप बोलते हैं कि यार किसी स्ट्रेंजर से बात नहीं करनी, किसी स्ट्रेंजर के पास नहीं जाना, या मतलब ऐसे इंटरेक्ट नहीं करना. और जब शादी होती है तो हम स्ट्रेंजर से शादी करा के उसको बोलते हैं जाओ पूरी जिंदगी अब स्ट्रेंजर के साथ जियो. सो दैट्स बीन आई थिंक द प्रॉब्लम विद बोथ इंडिया एंड पाकिस्तान एंड for most of the Asian countries, as Sadiq pointed out. But anyway, I think that's the whole point of the film. अगर आप लोग देखोगे तो you will understand and you will enjoy this more. Sorry अगर आप लोगों ने फिल्म नहीं देखी और हम लोगों ने कुछ spoilers दे दी हो. Yeah, Saket.
So I have one thing I think which will be a good point to lead out this conversation on. So I was thinking about the mother-in-law character because that was interesting. And I thought wo thoda it could have been done better because वो वाला angle हटा दिया है कि the typical Hindi cliche saas bahu thing. I thought that's also very like a valid issue in our society. Sometimes matriarchy dominates patriarchy. Like I have personal, obviously I won't take any names, but I know some people where the mother-in-laws are more dominant over the housewives. So what I was thinking was, do you guys think that So our protagonist has escaped from that house and she's now into dancing, but at some point she'll probably marry. So do you think she'll be stuck in the same situation as that mother-in-law, where she thinks that there is no way out and you cannot escape this patriarchy, so I'll also play the same role? Or do you think she can escape this forever?
See, with the mother-in-law, it was interesting, as you pointed out, and the fact that she goes away to her that sister-in-law's place and who's pregnant. तो वहाँ पे भी वो जाके more or less she was also just giving services there, if you saw, and she was actually when the dance thing came up, she actually said, okay, you should apply but don't take my name. So she had put the protagonist in kind of a dilemma also, क्योंकि जब पता लगा उसके husband को, so she couldn't take her name. So she was actually loyal to her mother-in-law's support, but as you said, ki whether she also goes on to become something like that, that I'm not sure about. I think if she had this whole experience here और वहाँ से बाहर निकल के if she's going to lead a better life for me, I don't know what others would say about it. Farhad?
I feel it is a vicious circle जो movie के end में भी दिखाया था. So at some point, unfortunately, she may have had to give in also, is what I would like to say, maybe. And that is the harsh reality. Up when I don't know, maybe इस time पे she did break out, but क्या वो हर बार करेगी? I don't know. I don't think. I have my doubts.
But
I think it's a vicious circle.
हर बार करेगी से पहला सवाल बनता है कि क्या हर बार उसके साथ ऐसा होगा? What if she gets a better husband or a better understanding family?
कम या जितने भी अंडरस्टैंडिंग हो, लेकिन कम मात्रा में या ज्यादा मात्रा में, ये ऐसी बात हो रही है. मतलब आप कम मात्रा में तो होगी ही होगी. No matter how good the husband is, वो होगी ही होगी. Take it from me. That
Anya,
point.
what do you think? A few years down the line, what would the character be doing?
So if I think this character goes in future, either she's gonna fall in love with a man and then get married, won't go in an arranged marriage situation again. And if something like this happens, maybe I think she would tell the husband that let's not live with mother-in-law and father-in-law. Let's just live with like alag se, taki they can lead their life without having us, and we can lead their life without having any kind of compromise. And I think having a nuclear family would be much better for her. That's what I.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to conclude. Sadiq, if you want to add something, I know कि आप late हो रहे हो and you had just a little bit of time, but हमने exceed कर लिया. So, do you want to conclude this?
Yeah, I just wanted to conclude by saying that, such films are very important to be made. And, these films show you the true reflection of our society. I mean, the problem is that the film is just considered as an entertainment medium. But no, I totally disagree with that, it's not an entertainment, not a time pass medium. It can create a mass impact. That's why movies and all these things, movies, documentaries and stuff, they are regarded as mass communication. So they can help you portray their message through that specific mediums. And that's why इस तरह की जो फिल्में होती है, specifically a film like Great Indian Kitchen, when you don't literally even need dialogue for that. मतलब, when you see there are not really need of any dialogue. Even a non-Malayali speaker, if the film doesn't even have subtitles, he or she can relate with that. So that's the impact of the film, which I loved. So yeah, I would recommend or encourage everyone to watch this. It's an amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, guys.
And not
Please.
only people in India or Asia, I think people everywhere in the world should watch it because it's relatable to literally every man, knowingly or unknowingly.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most powerful films in Indian film industry in a long time. So guys, if you have not seen it, please go watch it on Amazon. ये फिल्म आपको compel करेगी to actually talk to the woman in your household, the woman in your know. You will actually want to ask them कि कैसे आप लोगों ने इतने साल इतनी ये सब जो frustration होती थी वो control की. And this movie actually teaches us how we should not judge women based on their cooking skills. I mean, they are much more than that. So, thank you guys for joining Sadiq, Saket, Farhad, Tanya, and people who have seen it until here. Thank you so much. अगर आपने यहाँ तक देखा तो I'm very sure कि you also loved The Great Indian Kitchen. And next Friday we'll be back with another movie, another Malayalam film probably. हम जोजी के बारे में बात करेंगे. तो तब तक के लिए Keshav signing off, and good night. Take care.